So most of the 2025 NFL free agents have signed, and we now know what teams are going to be looking for in the 2025 NFL draft. And I mentioned how I wanted to do this in my last mock draft. I want to do a post-free agency 2025 mock. So before we get into this video, I just want to quickly shout out a new channel I created. It's called MG Baseball. It's basically going to be what I do in the NFL or the NBA, but over in just the same type of content, just for the MLB. So if you do like baseball, if you play fantasy, follow the draft, or just like the MLB in general, this is the place to go. Go give it some love. Link to that will be in the video description, or you could just type in at MLB Sross, and it's called MG Baseball. I appreciate it. Thank you. Let's get into the video now. So at the moment I'm recording this, there are still some notable free agents out there like Aaron Rodgers, Russell Wilson, maybe Keenan Allen. Where is he going? But I think it's really the quarterbacks that we got to figure out where they're headed. Now, I don't know. I don't really think if Tennessee ends up signing a Russell Wilson, they're going to pass up on a quarterback necessarily. But I think all indications from this offseason, they're going to stick with the #1 overall pick, and they're going to take the clear-cut best quarterback in this draft in Cam Ward, #1 overall. They added Dan Moore in free agency. Mason Rudolph just recently signed with the Pittsburgh Steelers, and they also brought in Cam Ward for a top 30 visit, as well as Shedeur Sanders, Abdul Carter, and Travis Hunter. They're taking one of those 4 players #1 overall. Now, it would be an insane shocker if Shedeur did go #1. That would just be that would just be out of left field, and I don't think a lot of people would see that happening. So I do think it's going to be Cam Ward. I'm sure the Browns would love to take Cam Ward at 2, and the Giants would definitely love to get Cam Ward at 3. We could still see Russell Wilson sign with the Browns. We could see Aaron Rodgers sign with the Giants. Where's Kirk Cousins going to end up next year? Will a team trade for Anthony Richardson or Joe Milton? All of those are possibilities, but I do think with Will Levis being basically the only quarterback on this team's roster, I think all signs are pointing to Cam Ward being the next quarterback for the Tennessee Titans, and he's going to go #1 overall in my post-free agency mock draft. So now it still gets a little bit interesting. Myles Garrett is not getting traded this offseason. The Cleveland Browns made him the highest paid defensive player in the NFL. They couldn't really be too active in free agency throughout the first couple of days because of their cap situation. And I don't believe they brought in Cam Ward with a top 30 visit. It's just been Travis Hunter, Abdul Carter, and Shedeur Sanders. Now, if they end up with a Kirk Cousins or Russell Wilson, they don't have to take Shedeur Sanders #2. And I do wonder if there's going to be like a Deion Sanders situation here. Would Deion maybe force his son, kind of like how we saw Archie Manning and Eli Manning back in 2004, and that situation happened where Deion does not want Shedeur to go to Cleveland, just the way that franchise has been ran. I don't know if the smaller market really matters, but I do think like Cleveland could look at Shedeur Sanders at #2 and bring in somebody like a Russell Wilson to be your quarterback for the next couple of years. They did trade for Kenny Pickett this offseason. Deshaun Watson may miss all of the 2025 season. His career in the NFL could be over, or at least his Cleveland Browns tenure. I think the Browns are going to look long and hard at Shedeur, but if they do land a good bridge quarterback like Kirk Cousins or like Russell Wilson, we could definitely see Jalen Milroe or Jackson Dart or Will Howard or one of those at least younger, more project quarterbacks on day 2. So I am actually going to have them go with Abdul Carter here, and they are going to have one of the best pass rushers in the NFL, yet one of the best, if not the best pass rusher in the NFL draft. You're going to have Myles Garrett on one side, who maybe is going to be a Brown for life now. He's got a no-trade clause. We all thought they were going to trade him. He said he wanted to play for a contender, and then they presented him all that guaranteed money. He goes, oh, you know what? I'll stay as a Cleveland Brown for the rest of my career. They had Abdul Carter. That's going to be a monster pass rush. That defense with JOK, Denzel Ward, that is still going to be a very good defense there in the AFC North. We'll see where Nick Chubb ends up. We'll see who their running back is going to be going forward. The receiving core isn't terrible with Judy, Tillman, Elijah Moore, David Njoku, if they do bring back Elijah Moore. But I think right now it's going to be Abdul Carter #2 because they've been linked to Russell Wilson. And I guess Russ might have a couple more years left in this league. And I wonder if they would take a flyer on somebody like a Joe Milton. Here's a desperate team for a quarterback, the Giants at 3. I think it's going to be Shedeur Sanders here. Even if they end up with Aaron Rodgers, who's 41 years old, I think you can draft Shedeur Sanders to a big market, have him learn behind Brian Dable and Aaron Rodgers going forward, and that could be at least a good developmental track for Shedeur Sanders, who may not be NFL ready out of the gate. Now, he would basically inherit a great wide receiver 1 in Malik Neighbors. We'll see how like Tyron Tracy's going to develop for this team. How is Wan'Dale Robinson going to look? They still need to add some playmakers, but I do think the Giants, like they added Javon Holland this offseason, so maybe they're okay not adding Travis Hunter. But if Shedeur Sanders is on the board, they got to take the quarterback. This is like the last hurrah for Joe Shane and Brian Dable. They need to save their jobs. And I do think like after missing out on Matthew Stafford, and probably not getting Cam Ward if he's going to end up in Tennessee or if they can't trade up to #1 overall, they're going to snag Shedeur at #3 and hope he could be your franchise quarterback and save the GM and head coach's job. So here we are with the Patriots at #4. Now this gets really interesting because Travis Hunter is still on the board at #4, but I don't think the Patriots Like, they added Carlton Davis in free agency. They also have Christian Gonzalez, a great young corner on their team already. You got Jabril Peppers at the safety spot. They spent a lot of money this offseason on guys like Milton Williams, Harold Landry reunites with Mike Vrabel over there. They also brought in Morgan Moses, Robert Spillane, Steelers legend. And he also started his career with Mike Vrabel in Tennessee. I think the Pats, this is like my biggest like hot take. I don't think it's happening, but if somebody ever asked me for a draft hot take, what if the New England Patriots took Ashton Jeanty at number 4? I don't know. They add Morgan Moses. They did just release David Andrews. And I still think O-line is in play here. They also need a receiver. So I think there's like 3 guys that could be on the board here that they could look at. And that's Hunter, McMillan, and Jeanty. But that also makes their decision very tough because I don't even know if I'm going to take any one of those 3 players. Now, you would have an elite cornerback room with Gonzalez, Hunter, and Carlton Davis. And that's probably the way to go. But this team needs to protect Drake May. And I think they're going to go with Will Campbell here at number 4. Now, there is a chance they go Armand Membu if there's a possibility that Will Campbell ends up having to go to guard. But hey, if he ends up being Quentin Nelson at guard, you take that any day of the week with a top 4 pick in this draft. So I'm going to have Will Campbell go number 4. I think it's a little bit of a shocker with Travis Hunter on the board, but I just think their cornerback room is fine as it is, and they got to protect Drake May going forward. It's not a great wide receiver class outside of, I don't know, some of the first round guys, but if you like one of the Iowa State guys with your early round 2 pick, they'll be there. Hopefully they're better than Jalen Polk going forward. Maybe they look to add a veteran like a Keenan Allen on the free agency market. And like Cooper Kupp's there, Stephon Diggs is there going forward. So I'm actually going to have them go Will Campbell. A little bit of a hot take here with the 4th overall pick. So yeah, they get an offensive tackle. That could also be Armand Membu, and I really wouldn't be that shocked. So we're on the clock here at number 5 with the Jacksonville Jaguars. They did lose a lot of weapons this offseason. Is there a chance Travis Hunter falls to 6? I don't know, because they did trade away Christian Kirk to a division rival. A little bit interesting. They cut Evan Ingram, who signed with the Denver Broncos. Now I don't think they're getting like Colston Loveland there at 20. Could the Jaguars look at Tyler Warren at number 5? But this team, like we all thought it could be Mason Graham. I think there's a chance maybe Mason Graham does fall a little bit in this draft. And I think at number 5, they can pass up on Travis Hunter. I think that's his absolute floor. I would even be shocked if a team traded up to get Travis Hunter at number 5 because he is the best corner in this draft. And him being available at 5 is really just because teams are QB needy, and I think the Patriots adding Carlton Davis in free agency could allow them to go offensive line or wide receiver or maybe Ashton Jeanty over Travis Hunter because Mike Vrabel did very well with Derrick Henry over there in Tennessee, and I think Jeanty gives just a way better option that can break tackles, that can get an open space for Drake May and his development going forward. But yeah, Travis Hunter goes there to Jacksonville. They've drafted corners high in the draft over some recent years. I know it didn't work out with CJ Henderson, so I think that's going to be the case there. Now, the Las Vegas Raiders traded for Geno Smith, who is 34 years old. It's not like Geno has a few years left in this league, but he reunites with Pete Carroll. He may get like a 3-year extension from the Las Vegas Raiders, and there are some interesting options on the board here at number 6. I like the idea of Ashton Jeanty. I really do. At number 6, they need a massive upgrade. But also, do we want to get Geno another weapon? Because the wide receiving core is a little bit iffy, right? Like, you have Jacoby Myers, but then there's a noticeable drop-off after that. And you have Brock Bowers. You have, like, the top receiver on the board here in this class with Ted McMillan. And I like that idea. I also think the Jets could be eyeing Ted McMillan at number 7. So I'm really going back and forth on who I think. I think it's going to be either Ted McMillan or it's going to be Ashton Jeanty. I don't think they're going to take Mason Graham. They did invest a lot into Christian Wilkins last year. You have Max Crosby. Like, the defensive line is all right, and this team does need to add another places. I don't know. I think this is a little bit too high for Jahdae Barron. Maybe they offered like Jacksonville like a 4th round pick to just move up one spot to take Travis Hunter to get that CB1 in this draft. So it's pretty much Ted McMillan or Ashton Jeanty for me. And I'm going to have them go, oh man, it is really tough because the offensive line's improved. You know, I think we get the playmaker. I think we get Ashton Jeanty there over in Vegas. And yeah, he's going to go number 6 overall. I think if Shedeur Sanders was there at 6, they would take Shedeur to be behind Geno Smith, learn from Chip Kelly and Pete Carroll and Tom Brady. But you get the best running back in this class at number 6. We've seen running backs go in the top 10 or the top 15 in recent years. I mean, Saquon was a little bit ago, but Bijan's worked out. Jahmyr Gibbs has worked out as well. Najee was a little bit later in the first round. I won't say that worked out, but I do think getting that playmaker, I mean, their running back group was not pretty last year with guys like Sincere McCormick, Amir Abdullah, Zamir White, Alexander Madison. Yeah, you get a true playmaker for Geno Smith, and he can also be a target out of the backfield, and maybe they look to add a veteran receiver, or maybe they trust what they got internally over there. So now the Jets have a plethora of options at number 7. Who is in this wide receiver room for Justin Fields outside of Garrett Wilson? That could be Ted McMillan, or this could be Tyler Warren to get them another option there. I think the way that this draft is fallen, they could also, since they lost Morgan Moses, they could look at Armand Membu, who I think could definitely be in play here to protect Justin Fields at number 7. They did lose DJ Reed in free agency. He ended up going to the Detroit Lions, but they did add Brandon Stevens. So I do think this could be, this definitely could be Armand Membu. I am going to go back and forth between Ted McMillan and Tyler Warren, and I think we're going to get Justin Fields that tight end option. It worked out with Cole Kmet. He feeded Pat Freiermuth a little bit, but not really a ton. But I think we can get like a good blocker for Breece Hall and Braylon Allen and Justin Fields in the QB design runs. And then you can also get another great receiving target out there with Garrett Wilson, because since they cut Devontae Adams, yeah, their receiving core isn't great. And maybe they look to add a veteran as well. And we know last offseason they added Mike Williams, traded for Devontae Adams throughout the middle of the year. Maybe they look to add a veteran. You got a true wide receiver one in Garrett Wilson. Let's get a true tight end one eventually in Tyler Warren if he can reach his fullest potential. Now we're on the clock at number 8 with the Carolina Panthers. Some really good options. I would love for this team to add Ted McMillan because they didn't get T. Higgins or Chris Godwin or DK Metcalf. We could get another receiver for Bryce Young and further his development, but they missed out on Milton Williams in free agency. We know they wanted to add another interior defensive lineman with Derek Brown. Let's go and just get Mason Graham. I think that's his absolute floor at number 8. Maybe he's one of those guys that goes a little bit later that we are all kind of shocked he actually fell in this draft a little bit. But I think there's a chance if he doesn't go, I think number 4 to New England, that's not happening. They just signed Milton Williams. If like Travis Hunter's on the board at 5 or Ted McMillan, like Jacksonville could definitely go a different route than interior defensive line. I don't see him really being a Raider. Maybe the Jets look to add something on the defensive line, but I think getting an offensive weapon that can also be a complementary blocker for that offensive line, I think is a little bit more valuable. So yeah, we're going to have Mason Graham and Derek Brown on that defense. They did also add Trayvon Morgan free agency. They re-signed J.C. Horn. Hey, that Panthers defense could look kind of nice next year. So we're on the clock here at number 9 with the Saints. I also think if somehow there's a Shedeur Sanders like fall, I don't know what the Giants did at 3 then. I don't know what the Raiders did at 6. I think the Saints could look like a team for Shedeur Sanders to be that plan B for Derek Carr going forward. I think Tyler Warren, if he was on the board here, could we see like a very surprising pick here? They did re-sign Chase Young. I didn't really like that contract. Our only top 30 visit right now is Siobhan Ravel. So we can't really know who they're going to take at number 9 based off that. Would this just be like a shocking Kelvin Banks pick? That's potentially on the board. I wouldn't hate the idea of Armand Membu. They could look for another player on that defensive side of the ball, but I think we're just going to go offensive line to try to protect Derek Carr and Armand Membu, who, like I said before when I was picking for the Pats, could go as high as number 4 instead of Will Campbell if they are worried about Will Campbell's arm length and him having to be a guard. But I just think you take the talent and the tape and the production there of Will Campbell. But Armand Membu just kind of when in doubt, take hopefully a blue chipper tackle prospect at 9. I think he could end up going to number 5, 6, 7. He could be in that range for sure. So we're on the clock at 10 with the Bears. I would have loved Ashton Genty here, but this team really did beef up the defensive line. They beefed up the offensive line, getting Jonah Jackson and Joe Thuney. They also added Drew Dahlman, and then you have Wright and Jones on your tackle spots. I don't really think we need to address offensive line. Would they love a Marion Hampton? I would love Ashton Genty 10. I think a Marion Hampton at 10 is a little bit high. Would they think about trading down? I don't think they're a Ted McMillan team at the moment. I think they would look for an edge rusher opposite of Montez Sweat there. Yeah, it's funny that guard and center was still in need. I don't really think so anymore. So I think, yeah, you could look at Shamar Stewart. You could look at James Pierce. Donovan Ezeraku has just been climbing up people's draft boards. I think you're trying to take I know the production wasn't there, only 1.5 sacks last year in A&M, but you're taking the freakish size and speed and athleticism of Shamar Stewart on that defensive line, and you're really just trying to mold what the Eagles did. You picked up Grady Jarrett, and I know you signed Dio Odengbo from the Indianapolis Colts. Maybe that makes Shamar Stewart more of an interior defensive lineman. Could this somehow be a Derek Harbin pick? I'm not sure who they would fall in love with here, but I would not be shocked if that was a corner or they just took a different edge rusher. So on the clock here at 11 for the San Francisco 49ers. Would they go offensive line here? Tyler Booker may be a little bit too high. Do they think Josh Simmons will be good for them? Kelvin Banks are all possibilities for this team. They did cut Javon Hargrave. Could this also end up being a little bit of a shocker pick, like a rising defensive lineman? Javarius Ward did leave in free agency, so I think we could also look at maybe corner for this team. It would have been cool if they picked up Joey Bosa, and then you had Joey Bosa and Nick Bosa, but since they were linked to Joey Bosa, edge rusher, James Pierce, the athleticism, the speed, the quickness that he could provide you. Let's actually go James Pierce here at number 11. I like that. So we had back-to-back edge rushers, a little bit of a run on those guys, which helps out the Dallas Cowboys because, I mean, I'm sure they would take Ashton Jeanty here at 12 because Rico Dowdle signed with the Carolina Panthers. They did sign Javonte Williams, but that is not nearly going to be enough for this team. They could definitely look to draft a running back. What if it's Hampton at 12? That'd be crazy. But they could take just one of these loaded guys here on day 2 or day 2 in round 2. Or round 3, but I think this is an easy pick. You take the wide receiver 1 in this class, Tam McMillan, who I think this is his floor. No way he makes it past 12, right? Because there's a chance he can go number 4 to the Pats. If they do think he can be a wide receiver 1 for Drake May, Jaguars could use another receiver. Could they take him at 5? Vegas can use a receiver. The Jets can use a receiver. Panthers and Saints could all use a receiver. So if he does somehow not go in that top 9, I think his floor is the Dallas Cowboys there at number 12. I think we should not overthink this. They lost Devon Holland in free agency. People are really starting to like Xavier Watts from Notre Dame. Nick Emmanwori was the combine standout out of South Carolina. I like Kevin Winston's tape from Penn State, but I think you got to go Malachi Starks. Like I said, do not overthink this. If I hear Malachi Starks' name 32 to the Eagles on draft night, I'm going to lose my mind. We do not need to see a Brian Branch 2.0, a Kyle Hamilton 2.0. Let's just see Malachi Starks go where he should, and that is in the top 16. So on the clock here with the Colts at 14, I mean, no longer is Anthony Richardson their guaranteed week 1 starter because that could definitely be Daniel Jones, who they signed. This team could look to add an edge rusher since Odengbo ended up going to the Chicago Bears. Could this be a Mike Green, Donovan Ezaraku, Nick Scorton? I think those could also be some options there. Michael Williams. Also, Jahdae Barron still on the board. They did sign Javarius Ward in free agency, and they added Cameron Bynum as well in that secondary. I do like the idea of them going the next best tight end prospect on the board, and that is Colston Loveland, who could be a deep vertical threat for you. And either it's going to be Daniel Jones, who really never had the best tight end group over there in New York, and Anthony Richardson, hasn't really played with a great tight end yet either. No disrespect to the Colts tight ends over the last 2 years, but I think Colston Loveland can now round out this offense. You did lose a couple guys on that offensive line in free agency, like Will Fries and Ryan Kelly. So maybe this is also like a Kelvin Banks team to protect the quarterback going forward, but I think you can also do so with getting Colston Loveland, who could be a good receiving threat for you. The Falcons, we're going to go defense here, right? I don't know wide receiver is a need for this team. We have so many other needs, and I think you can get Jahad Campbell. I think you can get Jahdae Barron. Him and AJ Terrell could be nice. They did add Mike Hughes in free agency. I'm like, this is a mock. I would still take Will Johnson over Jahdae Barron, but I don't think Jahdae Barron goes past pick 15. Everything I'm reading and listening to right now, it just seems like he's everybody's cornerback 2 in this class outside of Travis Hunter. So I would prefer Will Johnson, but I think Jahdae Barron goes a little bit higher. We're on the clock here at 16 for the Arizona Cardinals. I think we can look to address defensive line like they did in free agency because they ended up signing and paying big time money to Jonathan Gannon's old friend in Philadelphia, Josh Sweat. So I'm going to look to add on that defensive line as well, and we are going to snag Kenneth Grant here with I think we're going to go Kenneth Grant here at 16. I think I want to do that. Yeah, we're going to go Kenneth Grant here at 16, add to that defensive line. You guys have heard me say in the past, I like Derek Harmon a little bit more, but I think Grant goes above him. Let's get a playmaker on this defense for the Cincinnati Bengals. I mean, they may trade away Trey Hendrickson. So let's get somebody that could do a little bit of everything for you. Jahad Campbell to the Bengals there at 17. Sam Hubbard retired. Trey Hendrickson could end up getting traded. They got to pay Chase. They got to pay Higgins. They got a lot going on there in Cincinnati. It's not the most respectable front office right now, but we can get a good defensive playmaker there at 17. If they traded away T. Higgins between now and the draft, maybe they look at a Luther Burden or Matthew Golden. I don't think so, though. Let's get Campbell there. I think that's kind of his floor in this draft as well. 18 for the Seattle Seahawks. I know they traded away Geno Smith. They added Sam Darnold, who had a good offensive line last year. And this offensive line right now in Seattle is not great on paper. So I'm going to draft them Kelvin Banks, who you could play as a tackle, but you can bump him inside, have him and Charles Cross, as well as Abraham Lucas if he can be healthy next year. They did add MVS in free agency, so it's like him, Jake Bobo, and JSN out there for this team, but we got to address offensive line if you want to protect Sam Darnold going forward and improve that run game with Charbonnet and Kenneth Walker. On the clock here, 19 with the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. They brought back Chris Godwin on a very good price. They brought in Hassan Reddick. So I think they could have also been a Jahad Campbell team, but they could also look to add a corner. I mean, Will Johnson is still on the board here at 19. I would love that value for them, but I also think Mike Green could still be a great pick for this team. I think Mike Green or Donovan Ezaraku would make a ton of sense. I don't know. Jalen Walker would go here. There's a possibility, but I don't think Mike Green makes it past 19. He can go 16 to the Cardinals, 17 to the Bengals. He can go 15 for sure to the Atlanta Falcons. 19 here we have the Denver Broncos, who just signed Evan Ingram. They also signed Dre Greenlaw and Talanoa Hufanga. So I don't know if they would add a receiving option here, because maybe they like what they have with Sutton and Ingram, and then maybe guys are filling in the gaps. Maybe they take like a Jaden Higgins or an Xavier Restrepo later in the draft. I know running back is not a need for them, but it kind of is. I'm going to have a Marion Hampton go here, number 20. Some people I think are trying to be a little bit edgy and having a Marion Hampton as their RB1 in this class. I disagree with that. I do think it's still Ashton Genty. I don't know by a wide margin, but I would say that confidently. Now we can get a playmaker there at the running back position. For Bo Nix, an improved offensive line. The defense looks really good on paper next year with Brandon Jones, Surtain, Hufanga, and Dre Greenlaw. I'm excited to watch the Broncos next year. And I know it didn't maybe work out long-term with the last UNC running back you took high in the draft with Javonte Williams back there in 2021. But I think Marion Hampton's a little bit better of a prospect, and hopefully he can stay healthy. And since you added Evan Ingram and Loveland's off the board, I think that makes sense. The Steelers, I mean, it's worked out well for them. I don't think they add another receiver here, and like Luther Burden. I mean, this is a team that could also look to add like Derek Harmon, as they did release Larry Ogunjobi, but they have Keanu Benton. I don't think they would take anything else here outside of Will Johnson. I mean, as a Steelers fan, I would be head over heels for Will Johnson there at 21. If he falls, I would be thrilled. We have the LA Chargers, who signed Najee Harris, and he's going to do so well there. And with Loveland off the board, and I don't think they were going to take a Marion Hampton with Najee Harris. That wouldn't really make a lot of sense. I think we could try to get a receiver, a deep threat for Justin Herbert over there. I think it's pretty much who you prefer between Matthew Golden and Luther Burden. But I do think Matthew Golden would be a perfect piece there. He didn't get DK Metcalf. The Steelers did in a trade. So then we could take Matthew Golden there at 22. It's funny for the Steelers too, because the moment I'm recording this, Russ or Aaron Rodgers haven't made their decision. And the Steelers just brought in Mason Rudolph. So their QB room is Mason Rudolph and Skylar Thompson. Wow. What a way to try to go all in with that window of Cameron Hayward and TJ Watt at the moment. I know the Packers haven't really drafted a receiver in round one. There are still some options here. I still think like their receiving core can be good. So I wonder if they would go with a couple other options here. They did sign Aaron Banks in free agency and Nate Hobbs to decent money. There's some good edge rushers on the board still. Donovan Ezeraku, Michael Williams, Nick Scorton. I think all three could be in play here. And Ezeraku, I've been seeing mocked a ton there to the Green Bay Packers. 24, we got the Vikings, who were very active in free agency. So they brought back Marion Hampton, or excuse me, Aaron Jones. I don't think they would draft a running back here. I think Hampton could have made some sense if he was on the board. Now, they did bring in Javon Hargrave. They brought in Will Fries, Ryan Kelly, Isaiah Rodgers, Jonathan Allen. They brought back Byron Murphy. So they're trying to build this team around JJ McCarthy. I just don't know if there's a running back here for this team right now. I think we can just address defensive line. And I'm going to get my second best interior defensive lineman, Derek Harmon, there at 24 for this team. But honestly, since they picked up Javon Hargrave and Jonathan Allen, I regret that. But I'm not sure if I can undo a pick here on the PFF mock draft simulator. I don't want to like restart my draft. It's kind of annoying because, yeah, no, they added Hargrave and Allen. I don't think that'd be a wise pick. I think we can look to have maybe added another corner to this team. Maybe I can end up swapping picks. Like maybe, I don't know, like would I take Derek Harmon here at 25 to the Texans? But I think I would also take Josh Simmons, who they just traded Laramie Tunsil. All right, so we'll keep an eye on Derek Harmon. I think I would have him still go in the first round, and we're going to just swap those picks technically. So I'm going to have Josh Simmons go here. Or do I like Luther Burden? Because they would have Kirk. I don't know, Emeka, him teaming up with CJ Stroud again would be kind of fun. I don't hate that idea, honestly. But no, I think I'm going to have them go Josh Simmons since they traded away Laramie Tunsil. We need to improve that offensive line. So the Rams cut Cooper Kupp. They ended up kind of being a little bit active in free agency. They traded away Jonah Jackson. They did sign Devontae Adams. But I think they can add a corner here. I don't know what corner would be on the board because I think like Derek Harmon, yeah, that we're going to have to go back to that. I think the next corner, I don't think Benjamin Morrison's going to go in round one. Maybe it's Trey Amos. I think Maxwell Harrison played very well. Javon Ravel, I think, could go in round one. I think Maxwell Harrison could end up going here. But honestly, I mean, could they make it work with Nick Emenwari and just kind of play him all over the field, him and Cam Kitchens back there in that secondary? I don't hate that, just kind of getting depth there. Yeah, you know what? I'm going to have Nick... Or do we get younger at receiver? And like you have Devonta Adams, you have Puka, and then you can also add Luther Burden for Matthew Stafford. Could this be like a Jackson Dart pick? I think there's a ton of options they can go. I don't think there's another tight end that could end up going in round number one. So you know what? I'm actually going to have them go Jalen Walker. We're going to have them add a linebacker. I like that. They addressed defense last year in round one reverse. We're going to get Walker here. I think this is an easy pick for the Ravens. Why did they sign DeAndre Hopkins? Let's get Luther Burden. Let's get Luther Burden there for Lamar Jackson. It worked out well when you took Zay Flowers in round one. Let's get Burden and Zay Flowers to be the receivers going forward, not DeAndre Hopkins. So here at 28, we are going to have the Detroit Lions on the clock. They did sign DJ Reed, which was a nice pickup. They did lose Kevin Zeitler, so I think they could go Tyler Booker here to improve that interior offensive line. We're on the clock here at 29 with the Commanders. They made some notable pickups. They gave Javon Kinlaw a lot of money. They did not, like, they did add Deebo Samuel, and they did add Larry Tunsil. They made some trades, but I think they could also add another receiver. I would like for them to add a running back, probably not. I think corner could also be in play here, so I think we're going to have them take Maxwell Hairston. On the clock here, 30, the Bills, Emeka Ibuka is on the board. They could look to add another receiver. They did pay Shakir money. So I'm going to have Ibuka go to the Bills at 30. Now, theoretically, I'm going to have a trade here. The Chiefs are adding Derek Harmon to their defensive line. They added Jalen Moore. I don't know if they would draft an offensive lineman here. So yeah, at 31, this is going to be the Minnesota Vikings pick. We're just going to swap them. Derek Harmon went there at 24. I think I'm going to add a corner. I don't know though. Like, I don't know if Hargrave's going to be there a while. Like, maybe Harmon does end up going there. You know what? We're just going to leave it. They're going to just have so much depth there. I mean, their linebackers are good. Their edge rushers are good. Yeah, okay. So we're just going to leave it there. I don't think they would take a running back, and I don't know if there's a corner good enough to go in round one. Chiefs here at 31. I think this could be Nick Emmanwori. Just add a safety here. They lost Justin Reed. So yeah, I'm going to have Nick Emmanwori go to the Chiefs at 31. And at 32 for the Eagles, I think we can look to address edge rusher. They lost Milton Williams. They lost Josh Sweat. They lost Slay, Bradbury, CJ Gardner-Johnson. I don't think they would take an offensive guard here. Maybe they think Kenyon Green could be something for them. So I either like Michael Williams or Nick Scorton. I've been doing all these Georgia players to them here at 32. I don't know if there's a corner here. I'm going to go Nick Scorton. All right, we're not going to do the typical Eagles Georgia player in round one. And that is going to be my post-free agency mock draft. We had Cam Ward go number 1. We ended up having like Ashton Jency go number 6 to the Raiders. We had Mason Graham fall all the way to number 8, Tim McMillan 12. And then you guys can let me know in the comments what you guys think of my post-free agency mock draft. Do you think there's anything else that can happen that could change how this is going to go? Do you think we're going to see any trades at the top? Let me know down below what you agree with, disagree with, or any things that are going to be answered over the next few weeks. If you guys did enjoy, I would appreciate you dropping a thumbs up. Hit that subscribe button if you were not already. I'm trying to hit 20,000 subscribers on this channel before the NFL draft. And I'll catch you on the next one. Peace.